Hey, what's going on, everybody? TujoPanda back in action. We'll be talking about something a little bit different today. Alright, so if you are a furry in the furry community on VRChat, then you've probably been aware of this for a couple of months now. There was an online furry convention that took place on VRChat, and it went by the name of Furality. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to attend because it took place about a couple weeks ago, basically May 22nd to the 24th. And honestly, they had tried something like a little bit different from everything that's happened up to that point. I mean, occasionally there were like mass meetups. Honestly, when the virtual marketplace came out, like in the 4 iterations that had taken place since VRChat began, some of those levels were modeled in such a way that I thought it was some sort of a convention level, you know? But no. This actually took organization, time, and planning to execute, and I would say, well, for as ambitious of a plan as it was, I believe the brainchild of the plan was Dalton. I'm not sure if you're familiar who Dalton is. He's basically a gray furry wolf with a mohawk that's blue, but I don't actually know this individual, but I've seen him around enough that I'm aware of him, and I got to see a lot of his social media posts regarding Furality as an event. And he really poured his heart and soul in trying to, you know, bring the word to all the community. And I have to say, like, just as an aside, for his efforts, he got a lot of criticism and he got a lot of unwarranted negativity and hatred slung his way. You know, people are going to be assholes on the internet. Let's be honest here. But no, I have to say I applaud his efforts because he definitely tried to bring to bear an event that hasn't really been tried before. Yeah, for as ambitious of a plan as it was, I would say that was a half success, at the very least. Like, you know, it was a half success. It tried something that wasn't really thought of or tried before, and it didn't quite, you know, hit what it was supposed to do. I would say, you know, critically, like critical analysis, it missed the mark. But that's not to say that the effort and the time and dedication by Furality and its staff wasn't there. I mean, honestly, there was a lot of foresight and planning into how this was going to go. My personal criticisms is that, you know, typically a furry convention involves some, you know, very particular fixtures, as it were. You know, plenty of rooms for panels, a schedule. I'm not saying that there wasn't a schedule, I'm just saying that, like, you know, panels go into a schedule. There'd be a artist alley, a dealer's room, and, you know, a dance. And 2 of these things were not present. Can you guess what they were? I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, time's up. So the artist alley and the dealer's room were not present. And panels and the dance and various live stream services that were basically live streaming music in real time, those were all present. And there were plenty of meetups as well. You know, photo shoots, meetups, people that were enthusiasts of particular subgroups or subgenres on VRChat. A lot of this won't be applicable to you if you are not a VRChat player because, you know, maybe apart from the art, you're not going to really know what I'm talking about here. But for instance, there was like a Komodo meetup, and there was like a Prosian meetup, I believe, and then there was a Navali meetup. You know, various meetups based on certain special interest groups out there, usually dedicated around a particular look, style, or avatar. But yeah, my biggest issue is that, you know, as it stands, most furry conventions out there, the artist alley and the dealer's room are pretty big fixtures, and there's plenty of avatar makers and modelers out there that I'm sure could have appreciated the extra advertising and, you know, like awareness of their activities, their work, and appreciation for what they, you know, have the capabilities of doing. However, you know, for what it was, hey, fine. I can settle for a common meeting place, music, and panels. Alright, so how did this all work? Alright, so first began, you know, conceptualizing the idea. You know, obviously with the COVID-19 situation going on, there are like a massive spate of convention closures that happened in a relatively short span of time, resulting in a lot of people being disappointed. They had made travel arrangements wanting to go to various parts unknown, be it, you know, Furry Week in Atlanta. Me personally, I was planning on going, but I had to cancel because, you know, obviously, you know, it got canceled, so it's like, what am I going to do in Atlanta while the COVID-19 thing's going on? I'm not sure I could get a hotel or anything like that. And I don't have too many friends in the area that will take me in, so yeah, you know, swings and roundabouts, I suppose. And Anthrocon announced that it was closing its doors. I believe Eurofurence did as well, so prompting the creation of Virtual Furence. I'll get to that in another video. But yeah, all these closures happening in a relatively short span of time, that was sort of the catalyst that resulted in somebody conceptualizing the idea, hey, let's just do a furry convention online, on virtual, you know, reality, on VRChat. You know, I'm sure everyone's going to be involved and want to be a part of this. And, you know, it worked. There was a lot of fanfare and interest and speculation throughout the furry fandom in the very beginning because, you know, at least it was something to look forward to, you know? Some people, admittedly, I have to say, were wanting it to crash and burn, and these people are kind of, I would classify as assholes, personally, but everyone else, they seemed genuinely interested and hopeful that this was going to be a successful event. Problem. Registration went through the roof. There was a lot more interest garnered from the general populace than Furality could possibly take care of. And I have to say, some of the people that I know, like Puffs, he was an admin on the Furality, you know, sort of group, you know, staff member, you know, and I will say he kept a very professional, you know, stiff upper lip outlook on everything and responded to critiques, criticism, and various other malcontents throughout the community, you know, in a professional manner. Most staff members, I believe, did. You know, I didn't hear too much criticism levied against them about their activities or commentary levied against the remainder of the community. However, I will say that, generally speaking, what happened was, you know, the advertising goes out, the idea is conceptualized, the planning sets in motion. I would actually be interested in talking to a few of these individuals that organized the event on what it was like trying to conceptualize ideas. The problems began almost as soon as it was started, you know, as in conceptualizing, pre-planning, and such. There were a lot of suggestions made by the overall community that were sort of brushed aside in favor for what they ended up doing. I'll get into that in just a few minutes here. However, at its basic core, they started a website. You know what? Let's take a break. I'm going to go ahead and show you that website right now. It's actually pretty cool. Hey, that's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, honestly, one thing I picked up pretty quick on is the fact that Furality, it had sort of a vaporwave, cyber retro feel to it, and that honestly made it pretty good. So, at the time, if you were sort of leading up through the month of May, maybe a month before in April, this is the website that you would have seen, you know, furality.org, and let's go ahead and click on some links. Registration is now open. Let's see what pops up. Registration is closed. Due to overwhelming response, we have closed registration. Well, that makes sense. Code of conduct. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All attendees of Furality Online Experience are required to abide by this code of conduct. You should know Furality Online Experience. Furality is an online convention taking place within the virtual VRChat reality platform. And allowed content and behavior, streaming and recording. You have consent that your in-game likeness and behavior, including, may be broadcasted or streamed or recorded by Furality and its attendees and minors. Due to the unpredictable and uncontrollable nature of utilizing a platform such as VRChat, we recommend those under the age of 18. Minors do not participate in this convention. Minors must follow the rules set forth, and yeah. So pretty much boilerplate kind of code of conduct, you know, everything that you would expect. I will say that if you actually like click the register now button and you actually began registering, everything was very like streamlined and smooth operation. There was no choppiness like with some websites. So this was pretty professionally done, I have to say, for, you know, a registration website. However, I kind of wish they did a little bit more, like added a few more tabs here, maybe some screen caps of, you know, VRChat and people actually enjoying the event. So the events were, well, listed here. Yes, there were, in fact, meetups, panels, social lobbies, dances, games, avatar worlds, some of which I actually managed to get myself into. However, due to the overwhelming attendance, there were several instances in which case people would go to a world and then get kicked out to a, less populated one. Oh, actually, let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so if, as I mentioned before, Save a Fox Rescue, this was the charity organization that, basically you weren't required to pay $5, but if you did not pay the $5, well, you would have to, prove that you're an actual person. So you can help save a fox. Not that fox, though. That's the mascot. We rescue foxes from fur farms. But I like fur, but I don't have any articles of clothing that are made of fox fur, so this doesn't really pertain to me besides potentially saving a fox. Prepare, rescue, love, adopt. Sounds so great. How can you help? Donate. I believe they raised something like $8,000, give or take. I think it was a little bit more than that, like $8,000 something $100, but, just something to think about. At least I can say certifiably, as far as I'm aware, that the money that was contributed to Furality was actually given to this particular charity organization, and it was to a pretty good cause. So, yeah. Anyway, the Q&A is... What is the purpose of this convention? The VR furry community has existed for a number of years now. However, due to the present limitations with hosting an in-person convention, it is our time to shine. And welcome the furry fandom as a whole. We're hoping to introduce new members to our virtual world, make connections with others, and celebrate our community. They were half successful with this, as I mentioned before. How do I get a furry avatar? Well, if you join the Discord server, people would basically help you out, give you access to free, furry avatars that were considered public. And, yeah, so, 22nd through 24th, as I mentioned before, so something to think about. Honestly, this is a pretty damn good website. I'll take a moment to explain the actual ins and outs of the website in a few minutes here, but I'm going to go ahead and explain the process so that you're actually aware of what means what and how this all relates to one another. Alright, so basically what you do is you register on the website. There were two options that you had available to you. If you were a nobody, you would have to pay $5 to Save a Fox Foundation, which is a charitable organization dedicated to saving foxes from fur farms and various other areas that they would be in danger. Fine. At least the money is going to a charitable organization rather than, the pockets of the organizers. Although I would say that they would be entitled to take a small portion of that because, they didn't just sit on their ass and, expect everything to come together on their own. They actually put time, effort, and work networking with people and trying to make things happen. So kudos to Furality, staff members, and administration, the event organizers. I think you guys did a pretty bang-ass job for what you had. However, as I said before, nothing could have prepared them for what would happen next. Anyway, let me get into the actual process. Alright, so you would have to pay a $5 donation over PayPal and submit some sort of a verification by forwarding your email of confirming, your payment of $5. aka a receipt, to Furality, and there would be some sort of a website tracker that would determine whether or not that you actually did pay your $5, and then they would send you a verification email congratulating you on successfully registering to this online furry convention. Good. Problem. Many various problems happened in the very beginning because a lot of people didn't get their verification emails. They didn't get any information as to what the event was going to do and how it was going to, function. But the basics was that there was supposed to be an account, a Furality VRChat account that was supposed to friend you, and that would be, confirmation that you were actually accepted into this event. Great. Almost immediately. Oh, by the way, there was also a Discord that you were recommended to join so that you can keep track of, events in real time. Engage with your fellow furs on, a centralized area, away from VRChat. And, yeah, for the most part, it was a pretty good contrast of people. A lot of people that I didn't know were a part of it. I will be honest with you, some drama happened. Good old AP. If you don't know what that acronym stands for, it's the initials of a particular somebody that comes to mind. He is not particularly liked in the furry fandom. He is not particularly liked on VRChat. I'm not suggesting that you harass or target this individual. However, I will just say that their past actions have left a trail of tears and aggravation. I say this because almost immediately in real time, you got a sense of the no-nonsense sort of attitude of Furality and its many event organizers. Great. Unfortunately, 3 people got banned because, they decided to engage with this individual on Discord. It's never a good idea to engage with a drama monger. Like, I'm just going to say that flat out. Maybe like a couple comments, but nothing too overt because, you get yourself into this downward spiral and it just makes you look bad at the end of the day. So, 3 people got banned before the 4th individual, AP, got banned because he was rabble-rousing and people finally figured out, hey, maybe this person has a bit of a pattern and a track record of doing this sort of thing. I mention it because it was really the only little piece of drama that I caught looking. I will not be posting screen caps because I don't think it really needs that much more acknowledgement than me stating, yeah, there were some scuffles. Basically, Furality was very ban happy. I will just say as an aside. They were not afraid to kick you out if they verified or determined that you were a problem or threat to the overall cohesion of the local community. Fine, whatever. The problem is, anybody that levied criticism, even due criticism towards Furality and what it was doing, they would also get banned and kicked out of the Discord, which is a little bit controversial, I must say, but at the same time, I'm not the one running Furality, so I don't really have a sense of the ins and outs, what it's like to be sitting in the driver's seat of this, event and how things go in real time. Okay, so a lot of the drama centered around the fact that people weren't getting their verification emails. They didn't know what was going on. That was all rectified shortly thereafter, but it was getting pretty close to the wire. I mean, within the last week or the last few days of registration right before the event. Me personally, I will be completely honest with you. I kind of waited to the last minute because I didn't really take the whole event seriously. Here's why. The things that I could do at Furality, I can already do on a daily basis on VRChat at my leisure. I can meet with friends, I can arrange events, I can organize events on my own accord with mutual friends or maybe a few friends of friends and acquaintances, and I can enjoy myself, and have a bang-ass time. That's just me. Other people that might be new to VRChat and the VRChat furry community, they don't have that network, I suppose, so they need, time to sort of, get a sense and the lay of the land of how VRChat works, the social dynamics, and the dysfunction or function of the VRChat furry community. I might talk about that in a future video. However, let's get back on track. Alright. So, the event happens. The way it works is that provided that you provided sufficient information, you would get sort of a link, web browser system, where you can click on certain rooms that would hypothetically be having a certain amount of slots. And if you know anything about VRChat, each world can only support or sustain a maximum of about 40 people. Although I have seen instances in which that number is not finite. I should say not static, as in it can fluctuate up or down depending on a variety of factors, everyone's overall internet connection, the health of the servers of VRChat at the time, optimized avatars versus unoptimized avatars and their frequency and level, how many times people change their avatars, various activities that might impact the overall function of that VRChat world instance. The list goes on. I could spend an entire video explaining how VRChat works. However, I'm not going to do that right now because I just need to get through this. Okay. Anyway, I do have some footage that I can share with you all, about, overall the how things work, how things don't work. But my initial sort of experience going in was just sitting there waiting 5 minutes for all of the avatars that were in the level to load in. And, basically after the 5 minutes is over, things stabilize, so I could go talk to people, I could go enjoy myself. I don't have very much footage because I was mostly there just to enjoy the event and see it for what it was. However, I will say that, it did lag out occasionally. There were, jittery moments. I must say, live streaming services were pretty spot on. I really do appreciate the lineup of DJs that they got. A lot of furries that were live streaming in real time, and I got to enjoy some pretty good pop music and synth music. So, yeah. As far as how things sort of progressed, a lot of panels could only support, like I said, like 25 to 40 people. And I didn't really get to attend many panels. I tried to get into a D&D panel. However, the problem was that the people that I managed to find were actually offshoots of the people that were originally trying to get into the actual panel itself and wound up in the wrong world. It happens. I will say this. From what I've been told, a lot of the panels went pretty well. There was one panel that was basically talking about all of the major communities, like the Sheba Squad, the Best Boys, and the Hyena Emporium, that sort of thing. But for the most part, like, turnout was relatively small to these each individual panels. I'm talking about proportionally compared to how many people registered, because there was no way that you're going to fit like hundreds of people in one instance. It's not like a real furry convention where you go to like a room and there's like hundreds of seats lined up and all pointed towards the podium, where a speaker would maybe show some video footage or talk about things that happened. None of that. It was much less formal insofar as, if you know anything about VRChat, you're pretty much going to be standing around for a while, standing in place. There might be like chairs around. Let's talk about the level itself. So a lot of the style that Furality brought to bear was sort of like a vaporwave meets like cyberpunk sort of like veneer, like very futuristic, very stylish, almost like an 80s future sort of vibe because of the color contrast, like a lot of purples and pinks and some muted blues. The stylization was really spot on for me. I really liked the level design. However, it didn't really feel like a convention room, And I have to say, in the face of like convention levels that are modeled after real world locations, it's kind of a letdown, but at the same time, hey, whatever. Like, they did what they could with what they had, and for what we got, I'd say we're no worse for wear. However, let's talk about the less pleasant aspects of all this. There was a lot of dysfunction and confusion about the entire event. And from whatever, this anecdotally as an aside, everybody I talked to either had really good things to say about it, or they had really bad things to say about it. There wasn't really a whole lot of middle ground. I mean, I guess, technically speaking, you could say that the middle ground would be people that couldn't get into the damn event in the first damn place because they never got their confirmation email. However, this could also be attributed to user error. I mean, some people didn't know to forward the email back to Furality for confirmation that you paid your $5. And I can only imagine, what the help desk, if there was one, I'm sure the staff members, people that they would reach out to, were overwhelmed with, inquiries and requests for help and assistance because a lot of people seemed confused. They didn't seem to know what was going on at any given time. And there were several screen caps floating around about that browser system that would allow you to click on an instance. A lot of them would just be perpetually full. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. They were perpetually full. You weren't going to get your ass in there. I'm sorry. And, that's about par for the course, I suppose. But there was also a lot of problems with the web browser system, as it were. But, yeah, for what it was, honestly, how I see it, I don't fault the staff members that attempted all of this in the slightest, They tried something that had never really been tried before. An actual VRChat furry convention. And, I guess technically they succeeded because the event actually happened. It didn't, crash and burn like some people were hoping. It succeeded, and it provided a lot of good experiences for a good many people. However, just as many people did not get to experience the same experiences as others and either responded lukewarmly or, somewhat negatively. Me personally, I'm hoping that the Furality team remains active, that they use the lessons that they learned this time around, and they sort of bear it in mind when they start Furality 2, which might or might not happen. I will say that the Discord is still online and, operational, and it's still active. People still talk there fairly regularly. It's a common furry meeting ground, and, I have to say, I'm glad. I'm glad people can at least enjoy, the memories that they made here, and, friendships and people that they met in passing fancy, and, talk about this for, months, maybe even years to come. Perhaps nostalgically. I don't know. I guess it really depends on you and how you sort of saw it. So, let me know in the comments section how you felt about the overall experience, what you saw, what you didn't see, what you wish you saw. Overall, I'd have to say, like, there was a lot of, let's talk about the criticisms. All right, so the first criticism, one that was often echoed throughout the entire VRChat furry community. Why do I have to pay for, $5 for a free game? Yes, VRChat is free. However, let's bear in mind one thing. This event required a lot of organization. That's at least partially why you're paying to attend a furry convention. And I don't think paying $5 was really that big of a deal. However, I will say this. $5, man, that can get me like a McChicken, a McDouble, and, maybe a small fry, medium fry, and a drink at McDonald's. No, not really. It'd be more like $6. But, that extra dollar will go a long way in paying for me to have a full stomach of junk food. And you mean to tell me that Furality needs my $5 depriving me of my McDonald's money? Nah, I kid. In all seriousness, though, $5 is nothing in the grand scheme of things, although, some people were griping about it. Thankfully, plenty of people in the community would just explain to them that, hey, this is an event, people don't typically gripe to go to a concert or something like that. All right, so, other criticism. A lot of it was levied at Dalton, and I feel for the guy because I don't think anyone should have to suffer from such abuse from the community that they so love and are trying to, help with an alternative to the fact that all these conventions were canceled in a relatively short span of time. Dalton, from what I've heard, got a lot of abuse from the community. A lot of naysayers that were shitting on him, that were just, basically castigating him, and it's like unnecessary hatred level at somebody that was trying to really come through for the community and do something positive. And, I'm not honestly surprised. Anytime somebody tries to do something positive, it's going to be met with a mixed reaction. There's going to be supporters, naysayers, and people on the sidelines just watching the whole thing unfold before them. But hey, he put his money where his mouth is. He made a fursuit video advertising the event. He made a lot of connections with people to try to make things work. He formed together, banded together with the other staff members. I'm actually not aware of the full history behind how this group of staff members formed up. I will say that a lot of people in the furry community criticize the staff members as being I wouldn't say popufurs per se, but there was definitely a sense of at least anecdotally from the furry community that I engaged with, even people that I didn't even know, they would criticize them for being the perception was that there was a lot of nepotism in the formation of the staff member team, and that some of the people in the staff member team do not deserve to be there. I personally don't know the entire staff member team, therefore I have nothing to compare it to, so I can't really make one judgment over the other. But I have to say, Dalton seems like a pretty stand-up guy, and Puffs I know to be a stand-up guy, so I don't know. I guess that's really a conversation for a whole lot more furries out there. Other than that, the actual experience itself, I would say was a net positive. For as briefly as I would go there to link up with friends and to just enjoy, some pretty good music, maybe bust a move on the dance floor, and, fraternize with people that I didn't know. And I met a couple people from Furality that, were pretty freaking awesome, to be honest with you. However, it was a hot, buggy mess sometimes. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. At times, it was just very hard to engage with people, and I remember one instance, somebody was blasting their own music on the dance floor, and I don't know about you, but my first thought is not to go to a concert that I paid money for, break out the boombox and start blasting my own music. That doesn't generally come to mind. What does come to mind is that people were understandably a little bit frustrated with this individual, and he was wondering why people were muting him. I'm just saying. You go to an event to enjoy the sights and sounds that it provides. You don't, like, for instance, you don't go to a restaurant and bring your own food. That's just not how it works. Although I would be very interested to see a restaurant that maybe charged you $5 and allowed you to just use the space to bring your own food. That might be pretty interesting. You know, for people that like to carry out or have to carry out. Although with the COVID-19 thing, that's not going to be happening anytime soon. Anyway. So to summarize, Furality completely missed the mark insofar as a convention, it wasn't really that distinguishing from any other VRChat related meetup or organization or event that you would have experienced otherwise had you been a VRChat player. If you were a furry that never experienced VR before, this would have been a perfect introduction for you to sort of embark on the grand journey into virtual reality. However, given the fact that many of us were seasoned players already and had already experienced, things on the fly and on a very casual basis, usually throughout the week or even on the weekends, we've already experienced things that VRChat, or should I say Furality, had offered. So there wasn't really a whole lot to make it special or unique apart from what we've already experienced before. The only difference being we didn't have to give up $5 or prove the fact that we were, a known person on either social media or various other parts unknown. So that is why I would say that Furality kind of missed the mark. I would also like to say that as far as a furry convention in virtual reality goes, there was so much more that could have been done. Like I said before, the addition of a artist alley where various artists throughout VRChat could show their works and have it appreciated by the general populace, and possibly even give out contact information on how to draw artwork for various users, or even commission people in real time at the convention itself, or just basically showcase their galleries for people to admire and contact them at their leisure if they so wish to commission them. Also, a dealer's room for people to offer things that they had purchased, links to Gumroad, or personal galleries for people to remark on the works of various avatar makers and people that specialize in creating assets via Blender, and they could have feasibly purchased things in real time, or at the very least been looking at advertisements for things that could be purchased. Geared towards the furry fandom, obviously. Gumroad's pretty good at that. But there were so many missed opportunities that, might seem kind of small for me to propose, like now, but overall kind of detracted from the overall convention feel. And I would have set it up like, there's a main furry convention sort of meeting hall where it's kind of like a typical lobby or convention area for people to just, mingle in. If you want to go to the dance, there's a dance room. If you want to go and, a separate world instance, for instance, or if you want to go to the dealer's den or artist alley, there's separate worlds for that. And there could be, schedules for various makers or avatar makers or artists out there for them to be available in the level at real time, as opposed to just their contact information being left there. However, in their absence, obviously people can just, look them up on their own time, of course, but sometimes some people like to actually meet the artist or the maker and get a feel for them before they, feel comfortable enough to actually commission them for work. Yeah, just saying. That's why I would have to say that Furality, as a furry virtual reality, VRChat oriented experience, didn't really feel like a convention to me. It just felt like another event. Same as anything else, something that I could have organized. However, the caveat here is the size and scope of this convention merits some recognition in the event organizers, because they truly put their work and effort into making this the best possible event it could possibly be. Now, on top of that, like I said before, there were some issues on registration and actually being able to join the convention. There was a lot of controversy regarding the fact that people felt the need to pay or prove that they were an actual person. I can completely understand why, Furality's, the event organizers opted for that sort of option. They wanted to weed out the people that were like grifters, griefers, trolls, or drama mongers. I can completely understand that. You want to verify that these are actual users and actual people that are taking the event seriously. However, like, you know, people felt remiss about that, and yeah, it obviously showed in the general malcontent, you know, that people shared. However, you know, you're not going to please everybody. And let's be honest, with the furry fandom, as fickle as it is, everyone's going to have something to bitch about at the end of the day. So, that being stated, no, Furality, you got an event that showcased a lot of organization and foresight ahead of time, and the fact that various, you know, music makers out there, DJs, were contacted to provide music and entertainment for, as like venues for the various furries that showed up. There are various panels that were organized ahead of time and scheduled, you know, per roster. And overall, I would have to say it was a net positive experience and an experiment in what furries could do when geared and motivated towards, you know, something like an online furry convention. So, if there's anything else come to mind, I'll definitely append this video and amend it and add things because, as you all know, I like to go into these videos unscripted, unsound, so you get unfiltered Tujo straight to your face and in your ears. Anyway, other than that, honestly, Furality was a half success story, and hopefully Furality 2 will be even better whenever it may or may not happen. Anyway, this is TujoPanda, signing off for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Till next time, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.